Chapter 15. The Mystery of the Sevens. The Number of the Shemitah. Woven into the mystery of the Shemitah is the number 7. The Shemitah is the 7th year and the conclusion of a 7-year cycle. 7 is also the number of the remission brought about by the Shemitah, when on Elul 29, the financial realm is wiped clean. The debts and credits that are nullified are those of the past 7 years. So the effect of the Shemitah extends 7 years into the past, the entire 7-year cycle. The Shemitah is the Sabbath of years, and just as 7 is the number of the Sabbath, 7 is also the number of the Shemitah. Is it possible that the greatest stock market point crash in history, having taken place on the day of the Shemitah, would bear the marks of the Sabbath year in the form of the number 7? The following is not central or essential to the phenomenon or the mystery of the Shemitah, but it is a fascinating phenomenon in its own right. The mark of 7. The 7-year mark, the greatest point crash in stock market history, happened on Elul 29, the end of the 7th year and the completion of the 7-year cycle, the 7th month. On the evening of the greatest crash began the month of Tishri. Tishri is the 7th month of the sacred calendar. Thus, the crash took place on the day that ushers in the most sacred of times in the biblical calendar, the 7th month. 700 billion. The crash was triggered by the failure of Congress to pass the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act. The bill was a response to the economic implosion of September 2008, an attempt to save the U.S. financial system. The amount chosen for the bailout was $700 billion. 7%, 2008. What percentage of Wall Street was wiped out on the last day of the 7th year? 7%. 7%, 2001. How much of Wall Street was wiped out 7 years earlier on the last day of the preceding Shemitah in 2001? 7%. 777. How many actual points were wiped out on the last day of the 7th year? 777. The Timekeeper. When the kingdom of Judah was destroyed in 586 BC, few of the survivors could have fathomed what lay ahead. The land was depopulated in a mass deportation of Judeans to an exile in Babylon. The most likely scenario was that there would never again be a Jewish nation in the land of Israel. But what the future actually held was dramatically different. The secret of what would take place, and of exactly when it would take place, was already there, contained in the mystery of the Shemitah. The Babylonian exile would last for 70 years based on the timing determined by the 70 Shemitah years the nation had broken. Once those years were completed, the exiles would return. The Shemitah held the secret to the timing of the nation's judgment. The Shemitah had always been linked to timing, and its timing always linked to the number 7. In 586 BC, when the Shemitah moved into the realm of prophetic signs and national judgment, its manifestation followed the number 7, 70 years of desolation, years representing 7-year cycles, the period in which the Shemitahs were broken, a chain of 7s through time. A journey of 7s. What would happen if we now embarked on a journey beginning from the Shemitah's climactic end and following a mystery of 7s backward through time? Specifically, what if we began this journey in the last hours of the last day of the last Shemitah, at the end of the greatest stock market point crash, just as it hits the number 777. It is September 29th, 2008. The time is 4 p.m. The closing bell rings. The crash is finished. We now follow a chain of 7s back in time. First sequence, the chain of years. From the closing bell of the crash, we go back in time 7 years. 7 exact biblical years, down to the hour. Where does it bring us? It brings us to Monday, September 17, 2001, the day of the other greatest point crash in American history. More precisely, it brings us to 4 p.m., to the closing bell, to the very last moment of the other collapse. 7 Hebrew years have taken us from the closing bell and final minute of the one crash to the closing bell and final minute of the other. Second sequence, the chain of days. Now, from that 7-year mark and the closing bell of the crash of 2001, we follow the chain of sevens back in time once more, 7 days, to the 7th day. From 4 p.m. Monday to 4 p.m. Sunday, we have the first 24-hour period, the first day. The chain then proceeds according to this sequence. From 4 p.m. Sunday to 4 p.m. Saturday, the second day. From 4 p.m. Saturday to 4 p.m. Friday, the third day. From 4 p.m. Friday to 4 p.m. Thursday, the fourth day. From 4 p.m. Thursday to 4 p.m. Wednesday, the fifth day. From 4 p.m. Wednesday to 4 p.m. Tuesday, the sixth day. The seventh day, going back in time, begins at 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. Is this significant? It could not be more so. The seventh day is September 11th, 2001. So the seventh day, in its entirety, proceeding backward in time, would begin at 4 p.m. Tuesday, September 11th. The time period would include Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Monday evening, September 10th, and late afternoon. It is in the midst of these hours that the attack of 9/11 will take place. The mystery of sevens has brought us back not only to the minute of the stock market crash of 2001, but also to the day of the attack, 9/11. Third sequence, the chain of hours. Now, what happens if we follow the chain of sevens once more, 7 hours, starting at 4 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, September 11th, and going back in time 7 hours, from 4 p.m. to 3 p.m., the first hour, from 3 p.m. to 2 p.m., the second hour, from 2 p.m. to 1 p.m., the third hour, from 1 p.m. to 12 p.m., the fourth hour, from 12 p.m. to 11 a.m., the fifth hour, from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m., the sixth hour. The seventh hour falls on Tuesday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Is this significant? Yes. This is the key time period of 9/11. As the hour approaches, the first tower is hit. At the beginning of the hour, the second tower is hit. And just before the hour is over, the first of the two towers will have collapsed. The mystery of sevens has brought us back to the very morning and hour of 9/11. The two strikes happen within a space of 17 minutes. The end of the 7 hours brings us to 9 a.m., and 9 a.m. falls within the 17 minutes between the strikes. Fourth sequence, the chain of minutes. What happens if we follow the mystery of sevens into the realm of minutes? The mystery has already led us to 9 a.m. The crash of the second plane into the South Tower happens at 9:03 a.m. So the chain of sevens has taken us from the crash of Wall Street in 2008 to a point in time less than 5 minutes from the attack. If we now go back 2 more cycles of 7 minutes, we end up at 8:46 a.m., the minute in which the first strike takes place, the exact moment 9/11 began. From the closing bell to the time of the strike. Starting from the biblical end of the 7th year, the Shemitah's climax, the mystery has taken us from the number 777 and the closing bell of one stock market collapse to the closing bell of the other. From there, it has brought us to the day of September 11th, 2001, and then to the hour of the attack, and then to the period of minutes in between the two attacks. The mystery of sevens. The mystery of the Shemitah involves the striking of a nation's financial and economic realms. And yet, as we have seen, it can extend beyond these realms to involve national calamities, even attacks on cities and nations, as it did in 586 BC, and as it did on September 11th, 2001. And the timing of these calamities is contained within the Shemitah's mystery of sevens, in both 586 BC and AD 2001. Between the crash of 2008 and the attack of 9/11 are 2,575 days. Within those days are 3,708,000 minutes, and yet the mystery pinpoints America's greatest crashes and the attack of 9/11 down to the minutes, if not to the very minute. And even without the mystery of sevens, we have 3 of the most dramatic shakings in recent history, 9/11 and the collapse of Wall Street in 2001 and 2008, all connected to the mystery of the Shemitah. not only in their timing, but in their origins. The crash at the end of the Shemitah of 2008 was linked to the crash at the end of the Shemitah in 2001. That crash, in turn, was linked to what happened on 9/11. In view of all of this, we must once again take note of the Shemitah's specific prophetic meaning as the sign of judgment to a nation that has driven God out of its life and brought in idols and gods of increase in his place. In such a scenario, the sign appears as warnings of things to come. We are now about to enter a new realm within the mystery of the Shemitah, a realm so different that one might wonder how it could be connected at all. And yet, as we will see, it is strangely connected and concerns the rise and fall of nations up to our day.